We play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew and Vito here from MiniWarGaming.com, and welcome to this first impressions video about the new Disciples of Tzeentch battletome from Age of Sigmar, 2nd edition. We're excited to be talking about this today. Now, we've already actually played a game of Disciples of Tzeentch, and Vito took them on, meaning he played them, he didn't fight against them.
That'd be an interesting fight. I'd probably lose.
Against himself. And I played Iron Jaws from the Orc War Clans, and that battle report is in the MiniWarGaming vault at the link below. So we've already filmed it because we don't want to do a first impressions if we haven't had some first impressions. So this is not a review video because we've only played one game. We can talk about that later on once we've seen a few games. So once you're done watching this first impressions, which we're going to do our best to keep spoiler free of the game, then make sure you go check out the battle report between Vito and myself. And if you're not a Vault member, you can still click it and get a free 7-day trial to the MiniWarGaming Vault. It helps support us, and it gives you access to thousands of other videos and new shows coming soon. And for all of you Karajan Overlords fans, we will be putting up a Karajan Overlords first impression and battle report versus Bone Reapers next week, hopefully on Wednesday. That is the plan. So Vito, we got to play Tzeentch today.
Yeah.
And we're going to walk through it. And obviously, we're not going to give any spoilers to the battle report. So let's walk through this and start commentating on what we've noticed to be interesting changes. Now, a little disclaimer before we get into this. Vito and I are not seasoned Disciples of Tzeentch players.
No.
And so I'm not going to know exactly what's the big changes versus what are just minor changes. And so if we say something like, oh, that's cool, and you're like, well, that was in the old battletome. Yeah. Well, I've played Disciples of Tzeentch like twice, like a year ago.
I've played them once before. Well, I think maybe 6-7 months ago.
Yeah. So we have a cursory understanding of what they are. So that's basically what you're walking into here right now. Nobody here at MiniWarGaming has played tons of Disciples of Tzeentch. And so this is basically what we can do is give you an overview of what's going on here and give some of our first impressions.
Absolutely.
So why don't you get us started by talking about some of the new battle traits for their allegiance ability.
Yep, so we have the Masters of Destiny. After the armies have been set up, but before the first battle round begins, you roll a 9 dice and put them to one side. And these are your destiny dice. So this is essentially what they have from before. You roll 9 dice, and you put them aside, and you get to use these throughout the entire battle. And you can never exceed 9 throughout your entire battle. And you can use these for whatever you like. You can use them for casting rolls, unbinding rolls, dispelling rolls, run, charge, hit, wound, and save rolls, and any roll that determines damage characteristics for missile and melee weapons, including battle shock.
Now, it doesn't involve everything. Because, for example, in our game, there was a point where you did a spell that does D6 mortal wounds, and you instantly like, oh, I want to use a Destiny die, but it's not on the list.
Exactly.
So you have to be careful that you don't think that the Destiny dice replace anything, but they are still very powerful. I think one change, if I'm not I think I'm correct, is that if you are trying to use these dice for rolls that require 2 dice, like charge rolls, casting rolls, unbinding rolls, that kind of stuff, you do have to use 2 Destiny dice. I think it used to be that you could just choose 1, but I'm not totally sure. And I should point out that the way this works is you must use them before you roll. So it's not like you get to roll and be like, I don't like that, I'm going to replace it with a Destiny die. You actually just choose a Destiny die.
Yeah.
Now, we saw some interesting combos. Why don't you tell us not what happened, not the outcome, but what interesting combos you found with the Lord of Change, for example.
So the Lord of Change, he has a really cool ability where when he rolls the die, he can actually change to the highest roll. So for example...
For casting.
For casting. So let's say he rolls a 5 and a 3. He can actually change the 3 into the highest number that he rolls. So it would become 10.
So 5 and 5.
5 and 5. But let's say he doesn't want to use that. He can actually go to his Destiny dice and use those Destiny dice. So let's say he has a 6 in his Destiny die and a 3 in his Destiny dice. So he'll take that 6, he takes a 3, and then the 3 becomes another 6. So he has now a 12 in his casting. So he doesn't have to roll. He just takes his Destiny dice and boom, now he rolled a 12.
And that's helpful because a lot of your spells have a high casting value.
Yeah.
For a spell-heavy army, I noticed that. There's a lot of very powerful, but high casting value. Now, You have ways around that. The Lord of Change has a command ability to give an 18-inch aura of +1 to cast and unbinding. You've got your, what do we call that? Not charters, the challenges things that you have to do.
Oh, the
Agendas.
Agendas.
We'll
Yeah,
talk about
this is actually pretty cool.
We'll get to those in a second.
Yeah.
But you have the agenda that can get you +1 casting for the entire game. You have a lot of different ways to manipulate that at being Tzeentch. That makes sense. But yeah, we found that you have to remember that when you roll that pool, what you want is a lot of high numbers and a lot of low numbers, because then you can use the low numbers for battle shock, and you can use the high numbers for, well, most things want high numbers, right?
And I think when you're rolling too for the Masters of Destiny or your Destiny dice, you want to have a good mix. Obviously, you're going to want some high numbers in there, but you're also going to want some low numbers. Now, if you roll low throughout, it's a little bit unfortunate, but...
Or if you just kind of get like this average spread, it won't be quite as useful. But any money, having not read every last command trait and artifact in this book, because I just haven't had time yet, any money says there's a bunch of things in there that let you manipulate replenish the Destiny dice pool, especially because it says, it does make the specification that you can't have more than 9. So why would they specify that unless there was a way to get more? So we'll get there. So tell us about the Locus of Change and what you think about that, Vito.
Okay, so this one's a little interesting. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think Matthew's on board with this as well. But the Locus of Change, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target friendly Tzeentch demon units that are wholly within 12 from friendly Tzeentch demon heroes.
Uh-oh, we did that wrong in our battle report. It's only demon units.
Oh, demon units. So we were using
the acolytes.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the battle report that you're going to watch, we had that work for all of Tzeentch, not just Tzeentch demons.
Yeah, because we were using it for the
Carrick acolytes.
The Carrick acolytes.
So it's still powerful, but okay.
Only targeting demons.
So essentially, if a demon unit is wholly within 12 inches of a demon hero, Tzeentch, all of these obviously, then it's -1 to hit them with melee. So, okay, now my opinion that's totally changed now. Seeing that, that one little extra word.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure to put a notation at the beginning of the battle report before we render it out. So you should see that, sorry, this is actually only on demon units, not on mortal units as well.
But I still feel like this doesn't fit with like the Locus of Change -1 to hit. For example, when we look at the Locus of Diversion for Slaanesh, being able to fight last, that kind of fits. You're mesmerizing the enemy. That's very flavorful. But -1 to hit, I don't feel like this fits with...
I think you can make anything make sense lore-wise. Like, they're deceiving you, and so it's harder to hit them. What I don't like about it is just kind of, it feels boring. Like, to give an army-wide, demons, mind you, wide rule of just, it's a -1 to hit them. Because usually your demons will have a hero nearby. And that just seems kind of lackluster. It's just like, okay, you couldn't think of something better? Like, we have these, because the locus of something, that's kind of the thing of each of the armies. So the locus of diversion being fight last, the locus of change is -1 to hit. It's just, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of -1 bubbles or auras as it is, and so to see that be this important. But it is what it is. Only demon units, though, should point that out.
I mean, it's fairly large, -1 to hit, but yeah.
It's only melee weapons, so you can still shoot them to death. There's some of that. You have access to all your cults as well. Now, from what I can see, summoning hasn't really changed. Now, I haven't compared the charts to see if there's a slight difference, but from what I remember, there doesn't seem to be much of a difference here. Essentially, you generate fate points, and you generate fate points by casting spells that are not unbound, or if your opponent casts spells that are not unbound. And you're able to do a lot of these in the game. Like, you had the acolytes, they all cast. You had 4 spellcasters. A lot of them could do a couple spells. But even then, it took you a long time to build up the fate points.
It did.
Because first off, earlier in the game, you're not as close to your opponent to be able to put out all those offensive ranged ones. And we had the agreement that you couldn't cast a spell that you're not in range of. There's some discussion on that. If you want to contribute in the comments below, can you cast a spell that you're not in range to do? Go check the FAQ when it talks about visibility, and just look at how spells are cast, and then you can kind of chime in on that, because that can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
But even then, you need 10 fate points before you can start to cast or summon in things. And that's at 10 you can do 3 Screamers, or 10 Brimstone, or 10 Blue Horrors. I don't know why you do Brimstones and not Blue Horrors, because the Blue are just better. And then all the way up to 30 gives you Lord of Change. You're never going to get up to 30.
It's going to be tough.
Whereas you see other armies like Khorne, I know the huge nerfs on Slaanesh has made it a lot harder.
Absolutely.
But even then, you're still bringing in units. probably faster than you're going to see.
I think so, because for Slaanesh it used to be 9 to bring in 10 demon units. Now it's 16. Depending on what armies you go against, I think it's fair to say you'll get to 16 fairly.
It's hard, yeah. It's really army dependent, because if you go against one wound armies, they don't generate it. But if you go against multi-wound armies like orcs or ogres or lots of different things,
there's a lot more multi-wound armies that are out there.
Yeah.
But for summoning with Tzeentch, I think it's going to be a lot harder to get those spells off to summon.
It's still going to happen. You're going to be able to summon something by turn 3 at the least. You could do it by turn 2 as well, which isn't too bad. But it's at that point you're just doing the lower level stuff. It's not like you're bringing in, and even at the higher level, once you get to 20 summoning points, it's 10 pink horrors, which I know they generate points to summon blue horrors. Excuse me, and then they generate points to summon brimstone. But definitely not. I don't think you're going to find a way to build a Tzeentch army that really abuses summoning. You can maximize it, and I think you're still going to be summoning only once every other turn if you're just getting the lower level stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the agendas of Anarchy are interesting. So basically, at the start of each of your hero phase, you can choose an agenda, and then if you complete that agenda that turn, then the unit that completed it gets some sort of bonus for the rest of the game.
Yeah, this is something that's kind of new to the game.
Yeah, it was interesting in our game. It came up a couple times. Let's go over a couple of them. There's 5 in total. I don't want to go over everything just because it'll take us forever to do that. So why don't you talk about a couple of your favorite ones out of there?
Yeah, I think the one that I really liked the most was Mass Conjuration. So one of the agendas is you pick one friendly Tzeentch wizard. If that wizard successfully casts 2 spells or endless spells in that hero phase, with the unmodified casting roll being 9+.
Unmodified.
Yeah, unmodified, so just natural. And neither spell or endless spell is unbound, this agenda is completed. And the ability that you get is you get to add 1 to the casting rolls for the Tzeentch wizard that completed this agenda, and that's for the whole game.
Now, the Lord of Change has the ability to change the smaller die into the bigger die. So you roll a 6 and a 1, it becomes a 6 and a 6. The question comes down to, when you change it to the 6 and a 6, is that modified? Now, your immediate answer might be, listener, of course, you modify the dice. But when it usually is talking about modifying and unmodified dice rolls, it's like modifiers like +1 or +2. And so if I have a +2 to my charge and I roll a 7, I have a 9-inch charge, but I rolled a 7 unmodified charge. That comes up with some of the armies. And so the question comes down to, if you change the 1 die, does it become modified? Now, by the definition of the word, yes. But what do you think?
I mean, to the way we played it, we said that it was no.
Yeah, that didn't count. That you could change it, and that's still...
We counted modified.
It's still what you're looking at the dice.
Yes, we count modified as either +1 or minus ones.
That kind of stuff.
And that's how I think I would play it as well.
Yeah, and I agree as well. I'm curious to see what you guys can come up with.
Yeah.
Because there is no definition of what is unmodified.
Right.
Right? Because I've had this come up like in Warhammer 40K. If you roll, when you're doing a psychic power, for example, if you roll a double 1 or a double 6, then it perils. It does mortal wounds to yourself. So I've had the question is, if I have a -1 to my psychic test and I roll a 3, so a 1 and a 2, and it becomes a 2, do I peril?
Right.
And in my mind, I'm like, well, they say a double 1 or double 6, so they're clearly talking about the dice.
Yes.
But it would have been more helpful if they said unmodified 2 or unmodified 12. So there is no good definition here of these things. I know it's nitpicking, but it's going to come up.
There would have to be a hard FAQ, I think.
But for me, it's easy to say it doesn't count as being modified until you're adding or subtracting from it. Yeah. So what other one did you really like?
I don't think the 9-fold dismantlement really came into effect. I think Tides of Anarchy, I think this one might come into play, especially if you have really big hordes. And for this one, the agenda is if a friendly Tzeentch unit that has 9 or more models gains control of an objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your hero phase, this agenda is completed. The Tzeentch unit must have more than 9 models when it gains control.
9 or more.
9 or more. Ability. Each Tzeentch model in this unit that completes this agenda counts as having 2 models instead of 1 when determining control of that objective.
They turn into ogres.
Exactly. So if you have, let's say, for example, 20 models in this unit, now that unit counts as having 40.
Yes.
That's
Or
really
each,
good.
Each model counts as
two,
two.
yeah.
So if you have 5 of them in range, there's 10 of them.
Yeah, I think that can be really good if you need to really hold down an objective. The Tides of Anarchy is going to be really good.
Now, that might sound, just remember to catch that one part though. You have to take control of an objective that your opponent already had control of. So you can't just be like, oh, I got an objective right here in my deployment zone. So boom, agenda completed. Now for the rest of the game, I count as 2. So as far as I can see, when I looked through all these agendas, none of them were like super easy to complete.
They're difficult.
Casting 9+. There's one I have to charge 9 or more inches away. Kill a hero or monster with 9 or more wounds.
It's all playing to Tzeentch's number.
Yeah, destroy a unit with 9 or more models. None of these are just, like some of them might be straightforward. Oh yeah, 9 or more models, I'm about to pummel it. So yeah, what the heck. But for the most part, they're not all just obvious, easy to accomplish agendas.
Yeah.
And you can only do one of them. You can each of them once. Now we've got all sorts of new command traits. One's for Arcanites, one's for Mortals, one's for Demons. Is there any one or two that really stood out to you as interesting?
Not that I could really say, I mean, this one is like really, really fantastic. One that actually I think I did like from the Tzeentch Demon ones was the Magical Supremacy. Add 12 inches to the range within this general's, I'm gonna try that sentence again. Add 12 inches to the range within which this general can attempt to unbind spells and dispel endless spells. I think this one I really like.
It's only for unbinding and dispelling, though. It's not for casting.
Still, though, if you're going up against a really magic heavy,
That's 42-inch range all of a sudden, right?
right? I mean, especially because you're going to be casting spells at a pretty decent range at 18 inches. I think if you want to dispel, having more defense capabilities, I think that one's really good.
Yeah, for sure. I'm seeing ones in here that manipulate the destiny dice. Like there's one at the start of each of your hero phases. You can roll a die and replace one of the dice in the destiny pool with that. That's cool. I don't know if I would use up an entire command trait just for that one little extra dice. There's ones where once per game you can just get 3 fate points. I'm not sure, once again, why they wouldn't use that right away. Do you lose all your fate points when you summon? That's the one question. You can only summon a unit if you have enough fate points. Cost number of fate points is shown on the list. Subtract its cost from its one. Yeah, you don't lose your fate points. So it's not like if you have 12 fate points and you summon something with 10 that you lose them all.
I mean,
So it just says once per battle in your hero phase, you say that you're using it and you immediately gain 3 fate points. Why wouldn't it just say you start the game with 3 fate points? Because you're just going to use it right away.
Yeah.
First hero phase. I got 3 fate points before I die. So that's a weird wording, but other than that, it's just 3 fate points.
Arc Sorcerer is another decent one. This general knows 2 extra spells from the Lore of Change, and Lore of Change is not too bad.
Yeah, Arcanites can do that too from their Lore of Fate.
And that's actually something, as we go throughout this book, there's a lot of rinse and repeats.
Yes.
I don't know why they did that. I don't know if I don't want to say it's laziness, but
Oh, I think there's themes. I think that one thing I've noticed that if you're creating command traits for like 3 or 4 different variations of the same theme, I often see them do the first 3 command traits are the same or similar, and then the other 3 is where it changes. Because I remember in the older books, it would be like, here's 3 that you get to choose from that are general to everything, and then they'd give 3 to each of the other ones. So now they just kind of have a little more control over it.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if I wouldn't say it's laziness, because it's the same 3 for Arcanite heroes as it is for Tzeentch demon heroes, and then they switch up after that. So I like that. It means that you're not like, oh shoot, I want that one from the Arcanite, but I'm playing the Tzeentch demon hero as my general. So it gives you more options without sacrificing that. Lots of artifacts as well, of course. We've got Mortal Hero, Arcanite Hero, Demon Hero, and Demon Heroes, because you have demon weapons and demonic powers, but which count as artifacts.
Yep.
Have you seen 1 or 2 in here that you think are really interesting?
Demonic powers for Tzeentch Demon Heroes. The Wellspring of Arcane Might is a really cool one. You can reroll casting and unbinding rolls for the bearer. That one's really cool.
Put that on the Lord of Change especially.
Oh, right.
Because if you roll and you're like, I get to change the lowest to a highest, and you roll like a 3 and a 2, and you're like, oh, I'll reroll that.
Reroll. That's
You
really
have a
good
really good chance of getting a double 5 or double 6 at that point.
Yeah, that one's a really decent one that I like.
You have a lot of your typical ones, like reroll wound rolls on a weapon,
Yeah.
+1 rend.
Yeah, you gotta improve the ring. Yeah, you just said that one.
Yeah.
Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. If the unmodified hit roll of an attack made with that weapon is a 6, it inflicts 2 mortal wounds. You see a lot of that kind of across the board for a lot of armies.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot of ones that kind of...
Nothing stands out.
No.
Now, it doesn't mean they're not good. I'm sure there's going to be some really interesting combos, but we've only played 1 game, so we haven't built 20 different lists to find out all those combos.
There's just a lot of ones that I kind of, from what I've been seeing and looking at a lot of books, there's just a lot of rinse and repeat from a lot of books. But you do have ones, like I said, the Wellspring of Arcane Might. That was the one that kind of stood out the most.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have the ones that are themed to the list, and then how many different variations on the same rules can you really come up with all these different books?
The aspect of Tzeentch, though, that's another really cool one for demonic powers. If the bearer is on the battlefield, roll a dice for each time you spend a destiny dice. On a 5+, you can roll a die and add it to your destiny dice.
That's useful.
Yeah.
So generating more destiny dice. That feels like, I think it would be fun to try to combine all the command traits, artifacts, and anything else to manipulate the destiny dice so you have a lot more control over what's going on. I think that would be a fun thing to do, as long as you're really solid with your rules, because you don't want to have to keep having to look up all those little details because it can get time consuming.
Yeah. And I feel like this army is very much one of those micromanaging.
Yes.
You're going to have to consistently go back to the book.
Yes, until you've played it a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got 2 spell lores, the Lore of Fate for Arcanites and Mortals, and the Lore of Change for Demons. There are some, like the Bolt of Tzeentch is in both of them, which is a very powerful one, and it specifies that even though it's in both of them, it counts as the same spell, so you can't cast it more than once. It's just a D6 mortal wound one, which is nice. Let's talk about a couple of these. Which ones really stand out to you as interesting?
I did cast a lot from the Lore of Change, and I think there's a lot of really offensive powers.
It was brutal.
Yeah. If you want to make a very offensive Tzeentch casting abilities or army, I think the Lore of Change is really where you want to go for demons. So for the Bolt of Change, you casting value of 7, 18 inches, you do D6 mortal wounds. And then this spell cannot be cast more than once because it's in the both the Lore of Change and then the Lore of Fate. That's actually really, really good.
Yeah, D6 mortal wounds, when you consider that their base spell Arcane Bolt is just 1 mortal wound, possibly D3, to just have a spell that's only casting value 7 and it's just D6 mortal wounds.
It's
and you
strong.
get to pick, and very powerful.
Yeah.
And I remember you can't use your destiny dice to manipulate that D6.
I thought we could. I'm like, ooh, there's 6 in there. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and pick that 6.
No
I'm like,
kidding.
oh, I can't do that. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's like damage dice for melee and missile weapons, not the number of mortal wounds inflicted by spells or abilities.
Too bad it's not magic missile.
Yeah, magic missile.
Then
Fold Reality is a really weird one. It's only casting value 7, but then you pick a Tzeentch demon unit and you roll a die. If you roll a 1, you destroy it. And it's friendly Tzeentch demon. It's not like you use it against enemy Tzeentch. But if you roll 2+, then whatever you rolled, you can return that number of demons to the unit. But you're risking destroying the unit to hope to return a few models. Is that worth it? Maybe if there's only 1 left.
Right.
But that just seems very risky.
I mean, it's very Tzeentch as well. Like you're gambling at that point.
But isn't Tzeentch about control rather than gambling?
Tzeentch is the changer.
Aren't they the ones that go to
ways.
the casinos and be like, I know exactly what's going to happen and I know exactly when I need to leave?
Treason of Tzeentch is a really good one too, I think. Casting value of 5, 18 inches. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each 6 up, that unit suffers a 1 mortal wound. If any enemy models in that unit are slain by this spell, subtract 1 for the hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until your next hero phase. So if you're targeting hordes, you cast that on that unit.
Yeah, and it's not within a certain distance, because I've seen a lot of spells or abilities or guns say the number of shots is how many models are within the range of the spell.
Or wholly within.
Yeah, it's just like, no, if there's one of the models of that 30-man squad within 18 inches, I can cast it on that. I roll 30 dice, and every 6, you're going to get a few mortal wounds in there. And so you get this combined thing. That is already good, period. You could just stop there, just do some mortal wounds. But the fact that if I kill 1 model, now all of a sudden they're -1 to hit until the next hero phase.
It's a good spell.
That's a good combo. You got some interesting ones like Arcane Suggestion for Mortal and Arcanite Wizards, where you just pick an enemy unit and you pick an effect. It's hopeless. They take D3 mortal wounds. Drop your weapons. -1 from hit and wound rolls, which seems like an obvious winner. Or kneel, -1 save rolls.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So if you're about to hit somebody hard, you can do the -1 save. If you're worried about retaliation, you can do -1 from hit and wound rolls. And if you're just looking to do a couple extra mortal wounds, then you can do D3 mortal wounds. That one is, and you pick it, by the way. You don't roll to see which one of those things takes effect. If it was random, I'd be like, not as exciting. But the fact that you can be like -1 hit and wound, that's just devastating.
Yeah.
Absolutely devastating.
This one actually came into play a couple times in our battle report. Tzeentch's Firestorm, casting value of 9, which is fairly easy to do if you have a Lord of Change. Pick one enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster. You roll 9 dice, and for each 6 up, you suffer D3 mortal wounds.
It's not hard to get a couple of 6s on 9 dice.
No.
And you could get lucky and spike 3 or 4. So on average, it's a multi-arcane bolt.
Yeah.
It does, casting value 9, which while possible for Tzeentch is still, it is a little more challenging.
Yeah.
Then we have all of our, what do we call them, hosts?
Hosts, yeah.
Is it the different hosts that they?
Yeah, these are your hosts.
Or cults?
The cults, different hosts, different cults. Some of them are called guilds, hosts, cults.
Yeah, but there's got to be a name for the whole thing. It's really bothering me now, so I'm going to go back and look it up.
These are...
Coven.
Covens.
They're covens. That's the word. And there's probably 9 of them, right? No, there's 6. 6 of them.
They're actually pretty decent, some of them.
Well, pick one. We'll talk about it. We're not going to talk about all 6 as this video.
Should we talk about the one we did in the game?
You can definitely talk about that one.
Yeah, why not? The profane cult.
Pyrophane.
Profane.
They are profane.
Yeah.
But it's pyrophane.
The pyrophane cult. So this one has the ability, the Arrows of Tzeentch. You add 1 to the hit rolls for attacks made with Sorcerer's Bolts by friendly pyrophane cult, Kyric occult. No, not occult. Matthew, why can't I read that?
Acolyte.
I'm staring at it. Can't read it.
You're just morphing in front of your eyes.
Goodness. Occult units. In addition, at the end of your shooting phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit that suffered any wounds inflicted by attacks made with Sorcerer's Bolts. On a 5+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. It's a really good ability.
Just the +1 is nice.
Just the +1, yeah. Never mind the 5+ take D3 mortal wounds, but just for because you hit on 4s normally, but then hitting on 3s and then wounding on 3s, it's pretty good. And then you have a command ability called Immolate. You can use this command ability in your shooting phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly pyrophane cult, Kyric occult unit wholly within 12 inches of the friendly occult hero. You can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by that unit until the end of that phase.
And that came into effect a lot in our game. That they have their own spell to give them +1 rend to their weapon, to their shooting, and you had the +1 to hit automatically, and then you'd cast a spell on them to give them the reroll wounds, and all of a sudden you went from 4s and 3s no rend 1 damage to 3s and 3s rerolling -1 damage. The only thing they're missing is a way to get a 2nd damage, which maybe there's something out there, but it's still powerful. It just would be nice to have a little extra hitting. But that's 3 different buffs to the same one. And one of them, which is automatic, one of them is a spell, and one of them is a command ability. So
if you're making a very shooting-heavy army, I think this is the cult, or the one to go for. The command trait for this one is Shrouded in Unnatural Flame. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons that target this general. It didn't really come up in our battle report, but I think it's not too bad.
I didn't have any shooting.
Yeah.
So if I did have shooting, -1 to hit them, especially because your Lord of Change was a general, and so you'd already have it's -1 to hit them in melee, so now it'd be an extra -1 with missile weapons, so just -1 all around.
And then the artifact of power is Chain Fire Amulet. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a missile weapon by the bearer is a 6, that attack inflicts D3 mortal wounds. That's actually pretty good because the staff that the Lord of Change have does D6 attack, or 2d6 shots.
Yes.
Which is really good.
Yeah, because each 6, it's only 1 damage. It's -1 rend 1 damage. So when you're just going straight to D3 mortal wounds,
can be pretty powerful.
That is very good. It's just what you would expect if you're familiar with how the battletomes are typically done. That each of the covens has its focus of which units would work well with them. Obviously, acolytes, the Kyric acolytes are a go-to for that. You got the Eternal Conflagration, which is based on flamers. So around those demons, and it gives them buffs. You have the Host Dupliticus, which focuses a lot on the horrors of Tzeentch.
Oh, the Host of Arcanum. The artifact of power gives you 6 free screamers.
Yeah.
For free. So
Just
you build your, let's say, 2,000 point army. Here's 6 free screamers for free.
Yeah, that's like 200 to 300 points right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 240 points, I think. And that same one, the first, third, and fifth battle round, you can unbind one of your opponent's spells just for free.
Yeah.
Which maybe you don't want to do because you want the fate points for it, but if it's powerful enough, you could be like, no, counter spell.
Yeah. And then I think too for spell hunters, after armies have been set up, But before the first battle round begins, D3 friendly host Arcanum units that can fly move 6 inches
Yeah.
for free.
So obviously you're looking for your screamers or your flamers just taking off.
Going, yeah. I think host Arcanums are a pretty good one too.
Yeah, we have the Cult of the Transient Forum, which focuses on acolytes and Zangors, without going into all the details of that. We've got the Guild of Summoners, which you can probably guess what it is based on.
Lords of Change, that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
Lords of Change. It gives them better casting and ignoring battle shock. In fact, I thought it would be more about. Oh, it reduces. Oh goodness! I just saw that now. The Guild of Summoners. So the Lord of Change normally costs 30 fate points, but if you bring a Guild of Summoners list, holy cow, it only costs 9. Now it costs 18 to summon for the second time, and then 30 for the first or the after. But 9 points to get a Lord of Change? Okay, I think we found something here that we didn't see when we were first going through it. Holy cow. Yeah, forget what the rest of the stuff is. How would you like to be able to summon a Lord of Change?
For 9. For 9.
9.
Yeah.
So even if it takes you till turn 3 to get those 9, here's Lord of Change. How many points is the Lord of Change? 380?
Yeah, I think it's 380.
The Lord of Change, 380 points.
Yeah. Fun.
That's good.
Are you
That's good.
having fun?
That's
now?
good. No, I think that's good.
Can you?
That's powerful because Lords of Change are very good. They're decent in close combat. Not really.
Yeah, they're no keeper secrets. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they're above average shooting. They're okay in close combat, but their utility is really powerful.
Yeah.
And they're quite, 14 wounds, 4-up save. They'll stay alive long enough. But geez, that's
for 9.
For 9, yeah. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on, shall we? Past all the Path to Glory. We've got some War Scroll battalions.
There's a lot of them.
Yes. As befits something that has... Because remember, you're kind of dividing this army up into 3 themes. You got your demons, you got your mortals, and you got your Acanthraite. What was it called?
Oh, sorry?
Not the Acolytes. God, brain.
No, I think I missed
Help me out. Help me out here.
The
Arcanites.
Arcanites.
Yes, the Arcanites. And so
Acolytes?
No, Arcanites.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sure.
Great.
Okay. So you're going to have all these different... So basically you have a bunch of War Scroll battalions that's all about demons. You got a bunch that's all about the Arcanites, which is your Acolytes and stuff related to them. And then you've got... Actually, no, that's it. And then because the Zangors are in there as well. Did you see any particular battalions that really stood out to you as could be
the
interesting?
Omniscient Oracles. You have to take Carol's Fate Weaver and 3 Lords of Change.
So that's your whole army then.
Yeah, and then you take the what was it, Matthew?
That's like 16 to 1700 points right now. How on earth are you?
And then you take the Guild of Summoners, and then you summon in another one. So then you.
But that's not even how you. I guess we can min out your battle lines.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you summon.
You
in
have
a
like
5th
3
one.
units of Acolytes.
Yeah.
But is that even good? Like, what are the Lords of Change
It doesn't
gonna
matter.
do?
It doesn't matter.
What are they gonna do?
What are they gonna? Bang! 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 Magic missile! Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt!
But they can't cast the same
It
spell.
doesn't matter.
And they all have Infernal Gateway,
It doesn't matter.
which is a really good spell. I don't
Mystic
know.
Shield. That's what they do.
Yeah. Oh, I see you really thought this through.
You look at all the turkeys that you have. Welcome to Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah. So obviously, like some of them, they're formed around a lot of these 9-unit things, like the Change Host is the Lord of Change, and then 8 units of basically
In any
different kinds of
combination,
demons, like horrors, flamers, horror heroes, exalted flamers, horrors, flamers, screamers, burning chariots.
It's expensive too. Like a lot, like to take an 8 units in any combination.
Yeah,
it's
you're not
expensive.
bringing these in a 1500 list. You might be able to fit it in 2000 points by mining up the squads, but obviously some of these are meant for bigger ones. Like the Ether Eater Host is a Fate Skimmer, so that's a Herald of Tzeentch on a burning chariot, and you get 3 to 8 of the units, and so you have a bit more control over how many you bring.
Yeah.
And like the Change Caster plus 8 units of Horrors of Tzeentch, that's totally doable in a smaller game.
Absolutely.
And that one's a cool, like, if basically is what you would expect some of these to do. The Multitudinous Host is one of them. It's a change caster, which is just your Herald of Tzeentch, and 8 units of Horrors of Tzeentch, any size. At the start of your hero phase, you can return D3 Horrors of Tzeentch models to each friendly Horrors of Tzeentch units from the battalion. Roll separately for each unit. And remember, it specifies Horrors of Tzeentch, not pink, not blue, not brimstone. So if it's a unit of blue, you'd return blue, and so on and so forth. So if you want to save some points out of that 8 units, I believe when I say Horrors of Tzeentch, is it just the 1 unit, or am I thinking about this the right way? I don't want to give the wrong information here. Where are our horrors? Horrors of Tzeentch. Oh, okay, so Horrors of Tzeentch are the pink horrors. Oh, no, any number of models in this unit can be pink or blue or brimstone. So how does the points for that work out? Horrors of Tzeentch. So the same point. Oh, I see. If this unit contains no pink horrors, it's okay. So they do change the points cost, but you can mix and match what's in it. And it's only battle line if it's pink horrors. Interesting. So it's 200.
They're the more beefier ones.
Yeah, it's 200 points per 10, and their battle line if there's no blue or brimstone. If they're pink horrors, it becomes 100 points. If there's no pink horrors, it's 100 points. If there's only brimstone, then it's 60 points. So yeah, so when it says Horrors of Tzeentch, I am correct in thinking that you can have like some of them be pink horror units, some of them be blue horror, and that way you could have points left over for something else. And when you're returning D3 slain Horrors of Tzeentch models, does that mean that you can always return pink horrors? Like you could have units.
It doesn't really say.
Yeah, that has to be. Oh no, they're slain. So models that were part of the unit. That answers the question. I apologize for figuring that out on camera. I just realized, oh, that's really cool. But they have to have lost them. So which means if you had just brimstone horrors and you lost them, then you can only return the slain brimstone. It's not like you can add D3 horrors to each of them. You return them. So that's cool.
I think this one is really good here. The Zangor Coven. You have to take 2 units of Zangors, 2 units of Zangor Enlightened, and 2 units of Zangor Skyfires, all which are really good, strong hitting units. And the ability is Pride of the Gorkin. At the start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly unit of this battle line, or battalion, excuse me, that is within 3 inches of an enemy unit. That unit can shoot or fight.
Nice.
That is strong, especially because all these units are really hard hitting.
And it's not like within range of a hero. It's just the unit can be off by itself and still get these benefits, so you're not forced to keep them together at all.
Yeah. I mean, mind you, within 3 inches of an enemy unit, which these units are going to want to be in, and then shoot or fight. That's really good for the Zangor Coven.
Yeah. No, that's really good. The Skyfires will want to shoot, obviously. The Enlightened will want to fight. The Zangors will probably want to fight too.
Yeah, and even if your Zangor Skyfires, most of the time your Skyfire, if I remember correctly, don't want to be in combat, but even if they are, they can hold their own.
Yeah, it just means if they did get charged in your turn, you can be like, hey, there's only 2 guys left. I'd like to get out of here. Bam, and then you can move away.
Yeah.
And then you're free to shoot again. Remember, it doesn't stop you from shooting them later.
Yeah, because then you still have your regular fight phase, you still have your regular shoot. So, yeah, really good stuff here.
You get the same thing with the Witchfire Coven. 3 units of Acolytes and 1 unit of Zangor Enlightened. Once per turn in your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly Acolyte unit from this battalion, and it can shoot.
Yeah.
And you've seen in our game the power of one of those units shooting. And it says in your hero phase, not the start of your hero phase, so it still gives you a chance to cast their spell first to give them the +1 rend. And now you won't be able to use, if you're doing the Pyrophane cult, you won't be able to use their reroll wounds thing because that says in the shooting phase. But still, you can cast +1 to rend, and then
throwing all, I like to call them javelins because, I mean, yeah, throwing their...
No, it's bolts.
Yeah,
they're all shooting magic missiles, basically.
Yeah, throwing their bolts is still powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
So lots of potential here. There's a lot of battalions to kind of chew through and see what they can do. So there's going to be some nice combos in there. Now, getting to our actual War Scrolls proper, let's go through some of the interesting ones. So in the game that you had, or that we had, you brought a Lord of Change, you brought some Change Casters, and you brought Acolytes, and you brought Flamers. So let's talk about those.
I really liked...
What did you find interesting with the Lord of Change?
I liked the Lord of Change and his magic ability, the Infernal Gateway. This took out quite a bit of your units. The Infernal Gateway, casting value of 7. You roll 9 dice, and then the more that he degrades, the less killing potential it has. So yeah, you roll 9 dice and you take 1 mortal wound. For example, Infernal Gateway, for every 3 up that you roll, you take a mortal wound.
If he hasn't taken any wounds yet, his 9 dice 3 ups do mortal wounds.
That's a lot.
That's on average 6 mortal wounds. That's huge.
And his casting value of 7 too.
Even when he's at his min number of wounds, it's still on a 5+. So if you told me there's a spell out there that is a casting value of 7, and you roll 9 dice and every 5+ does a mortal wound, I'd be like, wow, that is powerful. And then it turns out, no, this guy's on a 3+. Oh, and by the way, the person casting it, when he rolls this casting, can take the lowest die and turn it into the highest die. Oh, and the person casting it has a command ability to give everybody within 18 inches +1 of their casting. That's incredibly powerful. That many mortal wounds. It's almost too many mortal wounds. But having played Ogre Maw Tribes, I cannot complain about dishing out mortal wounds because, I get to do my fair share.
Yeah. And yeah, that Infernal Gateway on his lowest bracket, which is with 13 wounds suffered, it goes off on a 5+.
Yeah, it still goes off on a 5+.
So that's pretty powerful. I think you just talked about the Beacon of Sorcery. Has his command ability. Every friendly Tzeentch demon wizard wholly within 18 inches gets +1 to their casting, which is pretty powerful.
He also can automatically dispel endless spells within 18 inches. And if he unbinds your spell with a 9+ roll, he now knows it.
Spell Thief. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that.
He doesn't take it from you, he just also knows it.
He doesn't, you don't.
It says if it is possible for it to do so. So obviously in some cases, if the spell is pick a friendly Iron Jaws unit, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I can't use that one.
Yeah.
But he technically knows the spell, he just can't cast anymore.
We have Karos Fate Weaver, he's more or less the same. Gaunt Summoner of Tzeentch, he's been added in here. We have the Fate Skimmer.
And then the Gaunt Summoner still just summons any unit, which is nice. So there are ways to get stuff in here, and he can bring in 10 Pink Horrors, or 10 Bloodletters, or Plague Bears, or Demonettes, or 6 Furies.
That's kind of cool, yeah.
Because I
mix and matching.
Well, you see him in other books as well, right?
Yeah.
And so, but just the fact that 10 Pink Horrors, that's 200 points. So you bring the Gaunt Summoner. How many points is a Gaunt Summoner? Gaunt Summoner is probably less than 200 points, or he's around that.
Gaunt Summoner of Tzeentch, 240.
Okay, so 200 of those 240 points is 10 Pink Horrors, which will then generate you points to bring in blue and Brimstone Horrors. So that is that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. We have the Changeling. I think, if I remember correctly, the rules have been changed for him. So he has the Puckish Misdirection. In the enemy hero phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 9 inches of this model. If you do so until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from the hit rolls for attacks made by that unit and half the move characteristic of that unit. But I think what he used to be able to do is you put him in their back lines, which you can still do, which is the Arch Deceiver. However, you could be able to reveal him at any time. That rule has been removed.
Yeah, because at the start of your first battle round, at the end of your first movement phase, you set it up again more than 3 inches from enemies, but in your opponent's territory. In the enemy hero phase, you pick an enemy unit within 9 inches. They get -1 hit rolls and only move half. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, this is a great ability.
But he can still be targeted.
Yeah, he can still be targeted, whereas before, he used to act almost as if he was part of that army. It doesn't say anywhere anymore that he's part of that that army's units.
Right.
Which is really interesting. I wonder why they changed that. He's a level 2,
Maybe it was
not
just...
level 2 wizard, but he can cast 2 spells.
Yeah. Well, I still think that using him, because you're basically moving within 3 inches, you could charge depending on what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. I think another really cool character is the Change Caster. In the bat rep that's going to be in the vault, I actually took 3 of them just to take advantage of the Locus of Change. But also, they have a really decent spell, which is the Pink Fire of Tzeentch. If successfully cast, you need a 9 to cast it though, which is pretty high. But if successfully cast, you pick one enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster, invisible to them. That unit suffers D6 mortal wounds.
Now, if you have 3 of them, only 1 can cast this, but you still have other spells that you can learn as well.
Which are also, in the bat rep that we did, are more of the aggressive spells.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The nice thing about the Changecaster too is once per game he can roll 3d6 for his casting and take the best 2. And on top of that, if he rolls I think it's unmodified. No, just like a casting roll of 9+, he can actually cast another spell.
Yeah.
And it says casting roll of 9+, not unmodified. So if you have something that's giving you +1, you only have to roll an 8. Or if it rolls 3d6 and taking the best 2, and that's at least a 9, then you get to cast it as well. So we saw that come up once or twice in the game too, where it's like, oh, I get to cast another spell, and Mystic Shield or Arcane Bolt or the spell that I gave him. So it does allow you to kind of have that cascade into more. And we see the same thing, like the Flux Master, which is the Herald of Tzeentch on disc, because you have the Herald of Tzeentch on foot. That's what the Changecaster is. Then you have the Flux Master. You get to have to remember all these new terms, although I know that they've always kind of had wonky terms, because it still has that once per game 3d6, but it doesn't have the 9+ gets to cast another spell. And it has Blue Fire of Tzeentch instead of Pink Fire of Tzeentch, so it's nice that it has a different name one. And that's where you roll 9 dice and each 6 is a mortal wound. Not quite as powerful as just d6 mortal wounds, but then that Flux Master is also on a chariot. On a disc, not a chariot, because then we have the chariot one as well. So you get all these different flavors of the same Changecaster, essentially. So when we look at Screamers, I don't think they've really changed that much, unless there's something I'm really missing there, that they still do their flying bites.
I mean, anything that moves 16 inches, I'm all game for that. I love mobility in my games.
Although now that I've said that, I got to check something, because I thought they were much more powerful than this before. Why don't you talk about the Burning Chariot of Tzeentch while I look this up?
Burning Chariot of Tzeentch. Oh, these guys are in great combination, especially if you go ahead and... Oh, never mind. I'm thinking of the Flamers, or Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch. Burning Chariot of Tzeentch. Touched by fire. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this unit that was inflicted by a melee weapon on a 5+. The attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound. That's not too bad. Wake of Fire. After this unit has made a normal move, you can pick one enemy unit that has any models passed across it, and you roll a die. On a 2+, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. Not too shabs. Sky Sharks, it's pretty normal. With the Lamprey Bite, takes D3. Unit can fly, and once again, any unit there's a lot of fly actually in this army.
Oh yeah.
Being normal demons.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
Yeah.
So the Screamers, just go back to the Screamers, they haven't changed with their base stat line. For some reason I thought they had a lot more. The 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage, I thought was much more powerful than that. I'm thinking of Warhammer 40k, where they're actually quite scary.
In 40k, they're terrifying.
Yeah. Now, they did change a couple of things. One is when they fly over it before, each model that flew over on a 6 would do a mortal wound. Now it's a 5+. Unless it's a wizard, then it's D3 mortal wounds for each 5+ that it rolls. And the other thing I should point out is they did used to have the -1 to hit if they're within 12 inches of a demon hero. It was called Locus of Change, and now that's no longer there.
Oh, okay.
So the horrors have changed fundamentally, because it used to be you could have a unit of pink, a unit of blue, or a unit of brimstone. And now you can mix and match. Now as we look through this, it does make their war scroll a lot bigger, because there's a full page of it. And then they had to go through all the different things, like if it's all pink horrors, then it's battle line. If there's no pink horrors, then it's 100 points. If there's no pink or blue, then it's this. So it's a little clumsier, I would say, but this allows you to mix and match them. And yeah, it says that it's a wizard if it has 9 or more pink horrors. And their spell is Channeled Pink Fire, which is casting value 6. If they successfully cast it, they pick a friendly Horrors of Tzeentch unit wholly within 6 inches of the caster, which is usually going to be their own. And they get +1 to hit rolls until the next hero phase. And you can't obviously benefit from the spell more than once, is what they're saying. Which is great, because normally they hit on 5s and wound on 4s. That makes it 4s and 4s. They get +1 casting when they're close to Tzeentch demon heroes. If a pink horror is slain, and you do not... Okay, hold on, actually. This is the thing I wanted to look at. Split and split again. So this is typically, in the old one, before I read this, when I kill a pink horror, it gave you blue fate points, which you could use to summon only blue horrors. You can mix it with fate points. So when you allocate wounds or mortal wounds to this unit, you must allocate them to a pink horror model if it is possible to do so. So you can't just have like pink horrors mixed with brimstone, but I don't know, you're still paying the points as if they're pink, so that's okay. Each time an iridescent horror or pink horror model from I think the iridescent is the iridescent horror is just the pink horror leader is slain, you add 2 blue horror models to that unit after removing the slain model. Each time a blue horror model is slain, you add 1 brimstone horror model to that unit. So this is going back to the way it used to be, at least in Warhammer 40k. And I'd be interested to see how this plays out, because I remember in Warhammer 40k, it was really annoying. Because you just saw the unit get bloated and you had to remove models and place models in. You set up the additional models one at a time within 1 inch of the position that the slain model had occupied. The additional models can only be set up within 3 inches of the enemy if it was already within 3 inches. If they cannot be set up, they are removed from play. So you remove the model. Let's see, do you remove the model and place it? Yeah, see that the slain model had occupied, so it's already been removed. So you remove the pink horror and you place 2 blue horrors there. You remove the blue horror and you put a brimstone horror. So I can see why it's 200 points for 10 of these. Because it's essentially...
You're getting a lot of models back.
It's 40 wounds. And even though they're only 6-up saves, whether they're pink, blue, or brimstone...
It's a lot to chew through.
That's a lot. And basically their attacks are based on whether they're pink, blue, or brimstone. Pink has 3, blue has 2, which means when you split them from pink to blue, you're actually getting more attacks. Because the pink becomes 2 blue. And then from the blue to the brimstone, it's just 1 attack, but that's fine. So you're losing attacks there. So you're gaining attacks that turns into blue, because their hits and wounds don't change. And that goes for both melee and missile. So it's interesting, because that means that if you take out the 10 pink horrors and they turn into 20 blue horrors, there's actually more hitting power from those 20 blue horrors.
That's quite interesting.
Whereas like in 40k, usually their toughness goes down or their save goes down to make them easier to kill.
And you can use this as battle line, can't you?
Only if it contains no blue horrors or brimstone horrors. Now that would be to start, because it doesn't matter
Because
once
they
you're
go
in the game.
right.
Once you're into the game, it's like, oh, that's no longer battle line. It's not legal in army anymore. It's like, yeah, well, I destroyed one of your battle line, so you don't have enough on the table either.
Right.
It's like you don't play that way. So 200 points for 10 of these, all of a sudden, that's 40 models really. Does a 10 become 20, and the 20 become 50? It's 50 models, 50 wounds.
Wow.
200 points for 50 wounds.
Especially if you have them on an objective as well.
Yeah.
That becomes, you almost want them to die at certain points.
Well, if you lose too many at once, you do have battle shock to worry about.
Oh, yeah, that's right too.
Well,
And then the bravery 10.
Their bravery 10 to start, and obviously the bloating their size makes it so that their bravery is going to be a little higher. But if you do enough, if you like just clock through them and do 20 wounds, then they're going to lose another 10 plus models after that. And it's when you allocate wounds and mortal wounds to them that they split.
Okay, so
not when they run away from battle shock.
Okay, so when in battle shock they won't separate. You'll lose the entire model.
Yes. Now you can choose to not split the pink horror, and instead you choose an enemy unit within 1 inch of the unit, and on a 5+ it takes a mortal wound. I'm not sure if I would take that chance though, unless I know that they're just going to clean up all the blue horrors anyways. Like they just put like a million wounds into me. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. 10 pink horrors are dead. I'll roll 10 dice, and each 5+ does a mortal wound. But for the most part,
Yeah, because a 5-up, it's
yeah, it's sorry, I was waiting for you to say words.
Oh, it's you know,
It's not great, yes. And it still has the icon bear, a pink horror icon bear, 1 in every 10. If the unmodified roll for battle shock is 1, you can return D6 slain horrors as Tzeentch models. And then nobody runs. And holy cow, because that could be the pink ones. Because it used to be it was just pink. So if you're returning D6 of them, it's like, that sucks, but oh well. But remember, it's not D6. It's D6 times 5 wounds are returned. Because for every 1 pink horror that you return, that's 5 wounds.
Oh,
it's a
wow.
pink horror, 2 blue horrors, and 2 brimstone horrors. So I don't know if I like this. They're not very hard hitting, 5s and 4s. You can cast their spell to make it 4s and 4s. And they becomes 3s and 4s if they have 20 or more models.
That's an expensive unit.
Well, it's 400 points.
400 points.
Well, unless you started off with a 10 and they split
Right.
to exactly 20, which would be hard. because it means you have lost exactly the 10 pink cores.
I don't know if I could see myself taking these guys.
It sounds annoying.
It's not my flavor.
It just sounds annoying.
Yeah.
And then you leave a hero nearby for Inspiring Presence. And that just sounds annoying. Oh, they brought it back. I don't know if I liked the other thing that they did, where you just got blue fate points and then summon in blue horrors. That was already annoying, but this feels annoying. Like, as the player playing them, I'm like, oh, this is so tedious. Like, hold on, what did you kill? 5 pink horrors? All right, hold on.
It's an excuse to go buy more models. I'm on to you, Games Workshop. I'm on to you.
Well, we already have all those pink horrors and blue horrors and brimstones, and I still wouldn't want to do it. So they totally revamped them. I don't know how they used to be in older Age of Sigmar, but they've basically made them more like how they were in or are in 40k. I don't know exactly how they are in 40k. All I know is I played a narrative campaign with them once where I played them, and I was just done by the end. And I just had them in little units of 5. And I'm like, let's play. And it's just like, oh, I hate this. I hate this. So
I'll just take more flamers as Tzeentch.
yeah. Thankfully, they don't hit very hard, but they're definitely 200 points for 50 wounds. That's 4 points a wound. Now, I know it doesn't perfectly work out that way, like we said for it. And I think we've talked long enough about this. So we can move on.
We have a new character, Magister, on a disc of Tzeentch.
This is the one that came in the Etherwar box.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty cool sculpt, too. What do we got here? Model can fly. Abilities, Magic Touched. If the casting roll of this model is a double and the casting attempt is successful and not unbound, this model can attempt to cast 1 extra spell this turn. If it does so and the extra casting roll is a double, the spell is automatically fails and the model is slain.
It's like, ooh, I could do it. Oh.
If a friendly Magister is slain by this effect, roll the dice before removing the model. On a 2+, the 1 Tzeentch Chaos Spawn is added to your army. Set up this Chaos Spawn anywhere on the battlefield, 1 inch of the slain Magister and more than 3 inches from enemy units. The model is a wizard and can attempt to cast the 1 spell. It knows Mystic Shield, Arcane Bolt, and a Bolt of Change. Excuse me. Bolt of Change, casting value 7, 18 inches. The unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If any models were slain by this spell before removing the first slain model, you can add 1 Tzeentch Chaos Spawn to your army 3 inches from the slain models.
No, within.
Oh, sorry, within.
Inches.
Sorry, yeah.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah.
You set it up already in combat with them.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, because it's not against the right unit.
You just cause distractions.
Well, it's also like if it's a unit that has only 1 wound models, then you're just adding a chaos spawn to your.
If I can cast that multiple times, just boom, here's a spawn,
every
boom,
round,
here's
right?
a spawn, boom.
Spawn.
Oh, I would love that. And then, oh, that's incredible. Especially if there's like, there's a unit over here that has maybe 5 guys. Boom, you do D3 mortal wounds. There's a spawn. Spawn finishes up, and then that spawn goes ahead and just goes ahead and grabs objectives.
Yeah, or I think of things like how I've been playing Cities of Sigmar, and the handgunners have the rule that if you charge them, and there's no enemy model within 3 inches, they can shoot you.
Oh.
And so if they only have 1 wound each, so you're just like, bam, turn this one to a chaos spawn, and now they have an enemy within 3 inches.
So that spawn absorbs the overwatch.
No, it doesn't get to shoot at them.
Oh, okay.
You have to finish a charge move.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
And it did not finish a charge move. It was just set up within 3 inches.
Gotcha. I see. Okay.
And so it totally shuts down that shooting.
I like that.
Yeah, and that's just a very specific example, but there's going to be lots of good ways to do it. At the very least, it's another spell that just does D3 mortal wounds, which just means that you have that much more. You have the Magister on foot as well.
Yeah.
That is able to do that.
There's the old Curseling or the old Village, if everyone remembers that model. He's in there as well.
Yeah, he can cast a couple spells. There's then all the...
I wonder if that's a new model. I haven't seen that one before.
Vortimus, the All-Seeing.
Yeah, that looks like a new model. I wonder if that's a conversion, not conversion, but not the Magister. Vortimus, the All-Seeing. I haven't seen this model before.
He's specifically from the Cult of the Transient Form. The Eyes of the Nine, so I don't know.
Yeah. Looks like it's a new model there.
So, there's a lot more to this book, obviously. There's some new endless spells. Let's go over those just to finish off. I know there's a lot of other things we didn't cover. and it's just a smattering. We're trying to give you kind of a flavor, a smattering of what's in this book, but going over every last detail obviously is not in the scope of this video. And of course, if you're interested, go to your local gaming store and pre-order it there, or buy it online, wherever you normally get your stuff. But we have 3 new endless spells. We have the Burning Sigil of Tzeentch, the Tome of Eyes, and the Demonic Simulacrum. Let's go over one of these. Let's go over the Tome of Eyes, which actually is exactly what it says. It looks like a book with a lot of eyes in it.
And fire.
So it's an endless spell, and I've been noticing that a lot of the endless spells that have been coming out for army-specific things are good endless spells, and they avoid all of the drawbacks of endless spells because they don't usually affect your own guys, which I'm not a big fan of, just because I thought they were heading in the right direction to make it so that it was harder to decide to do a double turn, because you're like, yeah, I'll take the double turn, and then, oh crap, but that means my opponent controls the first endless spell, and that could make a big difference. Now it's like, who cares? But putting that aside, so the Tome of Eyes has a casting value of 5, and only Tzeentch wizards can cast it as usually, and you set it up within an inch of the caster, and as long as it's on the battlefield, they're treated as one model, and it's just a one model. If the caster's slain, you remove it. So what's the benefits though? When it is on the table, if the Tome of Eyes is on the battlefield, you can re-roll casting rolls for the caster. In addition, if an unmodified casting roll for a spell is 2 or 12, it's automatically cast. So roll double 1 or double 6, it's out and cannot be unbound. However, the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds. So basically, it's like irresistible force or perils of the warp after the effects of the spell have been resolved. So it's even if it kills you. Now, I think it says here that they know the Parchment Curse. Only the caster can attempt to cast this. So they basically know an extra spell.
That's really good.
And if they cast it, you do an enemy within 18 inches. And on the 3+, they take D3 mortal wounds. And for each model slain, they get -1 bravery for the rest of the battle. The rest of the battle. So looking at those 1 wound model units again, or obviously it's useless against Bone Reapers who don't care about battle shock tests, but 1 wound, like a big unit of skeletons, big unit of grots, big unit of handgunners or whatever, and it's just like, okay, I killed 2 of you, you're -2 bravery for the rest of the game. And if I manage to cast this again next time, you're another -2 bravery. And remember that -2 bravery in the next battle shock phase means that they'll probably lose an extra couple of guys because of that. So that's cool. So it helps you with your casting, which is a really neat thing. It's only a casting value of 5.
That's low.
Which means it's also easier to dispel.
That's true too.
But it's right next to your wizard, so it's not necessarily close enough to get dispelled easily. And your opponent always has to give up something in order to dispel one of your spells. Yeah. So that's cool. It follows the lore of Tzeentch. That's to me, that's Tzeentch. Tzeentch is wizards and it's casting. You're going to spend a lot more time in your hero phase with this. I think that's why the Locus have changed being -1 to hit. I think I'd rather just be a bubble of +1 casting. So that to me, that would have more imagination to it than just a -1. But once again, you can obviously talk about flavor all day long and make a case for why anything has a certain rule.
It could be too to, like, if you're building an army that's very much magic focused and you don't have a lot of melee, that could be one of those things too to help out with the, I don't really have a lot of melee, here's another -1 to help.
Yeah, just to keep me alive long enough for me to cast a bunch of spells.
Yeah.
So that's all we're going to cover here. There's a lot more to this book. Tons more to this book. And so if you're interested in it, make sure you go to your local gaming store or Games Workshop or online store, wherever you normally buy your Games Workshop products, and pre-order it. Look at you.
Magic.
You're so happy that you're able to stand a book up. That's great. Look at that. Look at, okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow.
You know, I'm just going to, there we go. I'm just going to off-center it. Sorry, that bothers me too much. There we are. Okay. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I know that there's a lot more for us to learn about this book too. And we're discovering new things still in it. So you can look forward to seeing more Disciples of Tzeentch battle reports on the MiniWarGaming channel. Stay tuned for the Carriage on Overlords 1 as well. Make sure you go check out the battle report of Disciples of Tzeentch versus Iron Jaws in the MiniWarGaming vault at the link below. Thanks for watching. Happy wargaming.